Hello and welcome back to my channel. Wisteria here. So this is the twisted tale of Aladdin. So yeah, it's the one that I was told growing up. Once upon a time there was a poor boy called Aladdin. He had no parents because they both died when he was young, and he ran away from a foster home because he hated it there. He had no trade in which he could earn any money from, so most days consisted of him having to steal food, finding places to sleep at night, which sometimes would take him all day anyway. Aladdin did not seem interested in making his life better at all. He just got by day to day with stealing. One particular hot afternoon, Aladdin was sat by a stream of water. Suddenly, a tall shadow loomed over him, and a reflection appeared in the stream. Immediately, he turned around, and there stood a tall, rather gaunt man, but he was well dressed in fine clothes, unlike Aladdin's rags. He clearly had money, was Aladdin's first thought. The man knelt down and asked if the boy was Aladdin, in which Aladdin nodded and replied wide-eyed and eager. The stranger then held out his arms and put them around Aladdin in delight, and introduced himself as his long-lost uncle, the magician Jafar. "I have searched everywhere for you, my child. I have been worried sick. It took me a long time to get here, but at last I finally found you." Well, Aladdin could not believe his luck at this uncle, and with the money he would have too. The first thing his uncle did was take Aladdin for new clothes and throw away the old rags. Then he took Aladdin to a fancy restaurant where they ate the finest foods. During the meal, his uncle realized Aladdin had no trade and was lazy as far as he could tell. He told Aladdin he was to accompany him to the pyramids to obtain some special items that must be hidden away safely so no one could ever use them because they were way too powerful. Aladdin had nothing better to do, so agreed, and the next day his uncle explained how he had to find a lamp, but not just any lamp. This one was with a ring, and these controlled the jinn, creatures that are genies. They're very powerful, but not to be messed with, not to be trusted, because they're dangerous. "But don't they grant wishes?" Aladdin asked. "At a price, dear boy, at a price." Once they reached the pyramid, Jafar knew the way to the hidden room. Aladdin followed and saw jewels of all colours, but his uncle told him not to touch anything because they belong to Solomon, and he doesn't want to feel Solomon's wrath. Aladdin was not happy at this at all, for he would never have to work again. The uncle finally sought out the lamp and ring and picked them up, and Aladdin angrily asked why he couldn't just use it. Jafar's uncle said he would never let anyone use these items. Aladdin, though, with nothing but, well, greed in his heart, pushed his uncle to the ground, took the ring and the lamp, and then upon leaving grabbed an handful of gems, which caused the room's door to begin to close. Aladdin, being young and used to running, got out safely, but he left his uncle to rot in the room. No way out for him. Aladdin ran all the way back to his village, and he was smiling at all the items he had stolen, not caring indeed that he had murdered his uncle. Aladdin did not want to get rid of the jewels, so he put on the ring and rubbed it, and out came the genie. "Master, what is your wish?" "What can you do for me?" asked Aladdin. "Anything, master, but I cannot bend free will." Aladdin asked for a palace for wealth, to be a prince, and have the finest treasures, all the food and drink he could ever want. The genie of the ring granted it all. Aladdin was a prince now, with riches and a large castle, but he was alone and bored. He got out his servants and he would line them up and take it out of them the fact that he was lonely, the fact that he was hurt. Also, when his servants took him out, whenever a poor person begged, he gave them an apple. And considering what he could have done for them, this was a small gesture, but at least it was something. While out with his servants this one particular time, though, he spotted a young princess. So beautiful she was. And she was giving food hampers to the poor and blankets to keep them warm at night. Aladdin immediately introduced himself, but the Princess Jasmine was unimpressed with Aladdin. He said to her, "How dare you turn me down? I am a prince. I even have a magic carpet. I am wealthy." Princess Jasmine said, "Yes, yes, you may have all that, but you cannot love clearly, and that is enough for me, just love." "Why bother with love when you can have everything you want?" replied Aladdin, trying to tempt her. He visited her every day, giving her a different jewel every time he did. He did not pay attention to her wants and needs, but bragged of all the riches, and by the last day, which was the seventh day, she still was not interested, and he demanded back the jewels in which he had given her. The princess said, "I gave them to the poor. Don't you have plenty enough already?" Aladdin became enraged, and before leaving, told the princess she would be his wife. Princess Jasmine just ignored him and continued to work with the poor. When Aladdin got back, he immediately summoned the genie in the ring, but that was no use, because he would not mess with free will. Again, Aladdin was enraged and smashed the ring to pieces, setting the genie free to return home. So Aladdin then regretted this, but he remembered the lamp. He searched for it in his piles of gold until he found it and rubbed it. Out came the genie of the lamp and said, "Yes, master, what is your wish?" "Make Princess Jasmine my wife." "There is a price for this, master. Are you willing to understand the payment and understand this cannot make Princess Jasmine love you?" "But she will be my wife," replied Aladdin. "Yes, she will, master." So Aladdin wished it. The next day, Princess Jasmine did indeed come, and though she seemed in a daze of some sorts, she did marry Aladdin. The next day, however, even though she was his wife, and she lived with Aladdin, she did not care for him, nor knew why she had married him. She avoided him, locked herself away from him, argued with him, began to hate him. She could not even leave the castle. Every day she told Aladdin the truth. He was greedy and miserable, and she hated him. Those were the words that always left her mouth when near him. She didn't know why she could not leave, but every time she tried, she ended up back in her room. Her parents never came either. She was unhappy and so very sad and lonely. Aladdin, over time, because he was hated by his wife, began to drink heavily and demanded things of her, forcing things upon her. He drank more and more and became more volatile, filled with more hatred. Aladdin began to see images of his dead uncle and the poor people he did not help, and he went completely insane. Aladdin killed himself through torment and drink. Once he was dead, the spell was broken, and Jasmine immediately was set free. She decided she would set the genie free too, and she left the palace and gave all the riches to the poor. She gave them the pick of whatever they wanted. Princess Jasmine returned home. Both her parents were nowhere to be found. Apparently, they disappeared when she ran off with the prince, the maid told her. The princess actually lived a very happy life and helped the poor and married a wonderful man and had children. Aladdin, however, his soul went to hell, where he spent his days forever serving the jinns, being a slave forever, and never would he ever be freed. That was the price he had paid for all his riches. The end. Thank you for listening. I truly appreciate it. And if you can hear my big Dougal, my Dougal pie, my big dog, He's snoring in the background because I tend to read him asleep. So yeah, I'm sorry if you can hear that. He has a very big snore. He's a big dog. Please hit the like, share if you can, and subscribe if you have not. Thank you so much for listening, and many blessings.